A Song for the Silent Heart. In the small, sun-drenched town of Elmsworth, nestled between golden fields and sleepy hills, lived a young woman named Clara. She was a pianist at the local conservatory, known for her quiet nature and hands that could make a piano weep or laugh with every keystroke. To most people, Clara was distant, wrapped in melodies no one else could hear. But beneath her calm exterior was a heart that longed to be understood, not with words, but with music. One autumn morning, a letter arrived at the conservatory. It was from a young composer named Elias Granger, requesting to study Clara's technique and collaborate on a performance for the Winter Festival. Elias had once been a renowned prodigy, but a tragic accident had left him deaf in one ear and with a growing fear of performing in public. His music had become quieter, more introspective, and he had withdrawn from the world he once dazzled. When Clara met Elias, she expected someone proud and aloof. Instead, she found a man who spoke softly, listened with his eyes, and wrote music like it was the only language he still believed in. Their first session was awkward. Clara played while Elias sat beside her, scribbling notes in silence. But slowly, the awkwardness gave way to understanding. Over weeks, a fragile bond formed between them. Clara would play something incomplete, Elias would add a phrase with trembling fingers, and together they built something neither could have created alone. He watched how her emotions danced through each note, while she listened to the silence he brought to their music, realizing it had a beauty of its own. One evening, while practicing by candlelight, Clara noticed Elias watching her not as a composer, but as a man falling quietly in love. She stopped playing. "Why do you always look at me like the music is inside me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because it is," Elias replied. "And every time you play, I hear the parts of life I thought I'd lost." Her heart trembled. For the first time, Clara played not for the audience, not for perfection, but for Elias. A piece flowed from her that had no name, a song of longing, of loneliness, of quiet hope. Elias closed his eyes and listened, tears slipping down his face. They didn't speak that night. They didn't have to. The Winter Festival arrived with snow draping Elmsworth like a dream. On stage, Clara sat at the piano, and Elias stood beside her with his violin. The hall was silent, breathless, as they began their piece. It was not flashy. It was not loud. But it was true. As they played, their eyes met, and the entire room disappeared. It was just them, two broken hearts singing the same song. When the final note faded, the crowd was still for a moment, then erupted into applause. But Clara and Elias didn't hear it. They were smiling at each other, not as pianist and composer, but as two people who had found, in music, the love they never dared to ask for. And for the first time in a long while, neither felt alone. A Season of You. It was early autumn when Emily first arrived in the small lakeside town of Hartwell. The leaves were turning gold and crimson, painting the hills with a palette of warmth. She came to escape, a long relationship had just ended, and so had her belief in love. Hartwell was meant to be a quiet place to heal, to write, to breathe again. She rented a tiny cottage at the edge of the lake, where mist rose like a ghost each morning and the silence felt like a balm. Every morning, she took her coffee outside and watched the water ripple, trying to put her life back together word by word in the pages of the novel she was struggling to write. Then one rainy afternoon, she met Lucas. She had gone into the town's only bookstore, seeking shelter from the drizzle and maybe a new read to distract her. The bell above the door chimed, and as she stepped in, there he was, behind the counter, reading an old, leather-bound book with a soft smile. His eyes, a stormy gray, met hers with gentle curiosity. Need a refuge from the storm? He asked, voice warm like cinnamon. Emily gave a tired smile. Something like that. Lucas had lived in Hartwell his entire life. He was a quiet soul with a love for poetry and gardening, and a deep scar left by the loss of his younger brother in a car accident years ago. The bookstore was his world, and he preferred it that way, peaceful, full of words, no room for chaos or heartbreak. But something about Emily tugged at the corner of his heart. Over the weeks that followed, Emily returned again and again, to the store, to Lucas. They began to talk, at first just about books, then about life, fears, dreams. She told him about the relationship that had broken her spirit. He shared the guilt he carried from that night on the wet road. Slowly, cautiously, they let each other in. One night in late October, after the bookstore closed, they sat on the dock behind the cottage. The sky was a blanket of stars, and the lake mirrored every shimmer. I thought I was done with love, Emily whispered. Lucas looked at her, his voice barely above the wind. So did I. But maybe love isn't always fireworks and lightning. Maybe it's quieter than that. Maybe it's this, talking until midnight, reading in silence, watching the leaves fall together. She looked at him then, truly looked at him, and realized she was no longer running from the past, but towards something new. They kissed beneath the stars, shy and trembling, like a promise not yet spoken aloud. Winter came with its quiet snow, and still, they remained, through silent mornings and late-night laughter, through doubts and gentle healing. They taught each other how to love again. Not perfectly, but honestly. And when spring finally returned to Hartwell, it didn't just bring new blossoms. It brought a new beginning,